Well, good afternoon.
Is my mic on?
Yes. Good afternoon. Kalispera. Bruchim habayim. As you heard, I'm Shelly Porges. I'm co-founder and managing partner of the $1 Billion Fund for Women and Beyond the Billion. I'm also a proud Israeli-born American, and I'm a former advisor on the Business Advisory Council for the President of Cyprus, thanks to my friend over here, John Georgoulas, which is how I arrived here, which was a remarkable few years that we got to work together. Today, our company, which we launched our company, the $1 Billion Fund for Women, at the World Bank meetings in Bali in 2018. At the time, women were getting only 2.2% of all venture capital. And we thought if we could mobilize what has now become the first and largest global consortium of venture funds, what couldn't we do to advance women? Today, I'm here to say that investors all over the world are actually missing out on a huge opportunity. Now, what if I told you that, according to the World Bank, we could add $5 trillion to the world's GDP if women had the same opportunities for entrepreneurship as men did? In fact, we see that, so many innovative women-founded companies. And we're not talking here about just fashion and beauty, nothing wrong with that. What we're talking about here is women investing across the spectrum of agtech, cleantech, fintech, cannabis, blockchain, cyber. We thought it would take us a decade to do right by these women. And in fact, we mobilized over $1 billion in pledges from across the globe in under 9 months. Therefore, beyond the billion. In our first 2 years, our partner funds invested over $638 million in almost 800 female-founded companies all over the world. And today we are literally on every continent except Antarctica. I don't think they have a venture fund there yet. And we are proud to go beyond the billion to continue to build and advance the opportunities. So let me share with you what I'm talking about here. Imagine if you could build a human organ out of a patient's own stem cell. And then imagine if you'd not only gotten patented the technology, gotten regulatory approval to offer the technology, had doctors in hospitals and other medical facilities prepared to work with you to build it out, had lined up and started to build a company. And then imagine if you still couldn't get funding. That is exactly the story that Greek-born innovator pitched to us at the Cartier Women's Initiative around 2015. Here was a young woman who had done extraordinary things. Imagine having the opportunity to save lives, and yet still couldn't get funded. Similarly, imagine if you had built a company offering a technique for preventing AIDS at the time when AIDS was roaring through sub-Saharan Africa and other parts of the world. A simple, inexpensive, painless, bloodless technique. An Israeli founder and former CEO of Citric MedTech, Tzemeret First, did just that. So, and there are so many others I can share with you, so many other stories I could share with you. But most importantly, as investors, well, that's not all we care about. Of course, we care about solving some of the world's greatest problems. I hope we do anyway. But of course, we have to also look for how are these funds performing? Well, what I can tell you, the bottom line is over a decade of VC data has shown that female founders outperform their male counterparts, frankly, and even gender-diverse teams on many occasions, with earlier exits and higher valuations, and have been per dollar invested, I should add, because they don't get as many dollars, but per dollar invested. And someone once asked me, So you're saying you think women are better than men? I'm saying, no, not really, but imagine, women are the most undervalued asset in the world today. So what happens is, when we are looking at the normal curve of investments, we're looking at the high end of amazing men like Steve Jobs, who build not just life-changing, world-changing companies, men in the middle who build companies that are good and may deliver returns, and then men at the lower end of the curve who may not be doing so well. But for the most part, when you're investing in women in VC, I got to tell you, it's only the creme de la creme who are at today getting through the spectrum, getting through that, the hurdles that they have to go through. And therefore, we're generally getting the highest performing women contrasted to the normal curve of men. Someday, if we have gender equity, maybe we will have the same normal curve of women, but that's not the case today. But the question then is also, can this be done elsewhere? And how do we get there? In fact, and does this apply, most importantly, to the Eastern Mediterranean? I mean, can we deliver these kind of results in the Eastern Mediterranean? Well, why not? In fact, in 2020, women in Israel took the lead in MasterCard's index of women entrepreneurs for the first time since the series began in 2017. And the elements that drove that strong score, that drove them to the top, were strong scores in 3 of the components being measured. First of all, knowledge assets, meaning technical education, acceleration, and incubation, and entrepreneurial community. Secondly, financial access, surprise, including grants, bank loans, angel investments, and of course, venture capital. And then thirdly, supporting entrepreneurial conditions, including widely available, affordable, high-quality childcare, as well as support from government entities, including R&D grants, startup funding, and networking opportunities. In achieving this #1 standing in this index, Israeli women were benefited by the fact that the score for support for SMEs in Israel more than doubled from the prior year. And that's key, and we're going to be talking about that, I know, in terms of the role of governments. And the score for cultural perceptions of entrepreneurs increased by 50%. Now, women in Israel are also making commendable inroads economically as active labor force participants and as skilled professionals and technical workers, which gives them the capacity and confidence to start their own businesses. Also very important. Data from the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, usually referred to as GEM, the GEM report, also show that Israeli women, now this may be a surprise to some, not my husband, but maybe some others, women tend to be slightly more driven than the men, by 2.3% on average, according to this measure, to pursue business opportunities to improve independence, economic self-reliance, as well as to generate income. So lots to unpack here, but bottom line, we know that when you invest in women, you're in good company. Thank you.